And happy Wednesday to the world out there. Episodes 321, and quick welcome to Full Read and to East176. Gentlemen or ladies, thank you for chiming in on the Twitch chat. We are the Seahawks FanTable Podcast. With me is Zeb and Ross. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic, brother. How are you?
Who can't do well after a 4-game winning streak?
I'm saying, what's there to be upset about at this point?
Maybe if you hate life and, you're like a big anti-Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner person.
Why do you hate winning? Why do you hate winning in democracy? Why do you hate freedom, Zeb?
Why do you hate the running game?
Well, what it really is they win ugly, and it's just not what people want to see. Like Russell Wilson, 72 yards and wins the game. 10 for 20.
You call it 72 yards. I call it 216 feet.
But you know what? I mean, in all honesty,
quick maths.
That game was 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. That was a game on the precipice because it basically took one big play to determine it, and that was almost determined at the end of the second half when Russell Wilson does this weird pirouette, throws the ball, kind of looks like he's trying to throw it out of bounds but doesn't have the arm strength or the angle, and just gifts it to a linebacker. Luckily the guy stumbles and they end up taking a knee to end the half.
An ill-advised throw, to say the least.
Ill-advised, yeah.
I don't even know if you could say ill-advised, because that's kind of a throw you expect a person that's totally rattled, and you rarely ever see Russell Wilson get rattled.
So the thing is, it come across as looking rattled. I think it was, like you said, he's never rattled, so he always expects in the last second, as long as he's on his feet, to be able to throw the ball away. 7 years or 8 years of experience have taught him that, so he just does it. I'm not down yet. I'm just throwing it out there. Oh, holy crap! Oh my God, that guy's still there. It was horrible. I mean, he should have never even scrambled to begin with. Like in that situational football, he should have taken the snap when nothing was there, thrown it away, redo it, because there's 13 seconds left, right?
Yeah, just throw that ball out of the back of the end zone.
Just do a Aaron Rodgers where it's not immediately awesome, so I throw it away. So it's not an interception, so I never have any interceptions, but I never even take a chance.
Yeah, and the thing is, with that, you could almost see from the snap that wasn't going to be the play that they wanted. They didn't have the right protection. Mm-hmm. So that should have been the case, let's just throw this out of the back of the end zone and we'll play another down.
At 16 seconds, that's all you, But I mean, it's easy for us to say that, but A, he doesn't have the same angle, and B, you can't tell somebody always compete, and then turn it off for a play.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
Every once in a while going to be downsides to how the Seahawks are taught and coached and think. And, I accept it, and we got lucky this time. But
is that the only blemish of the game?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, it's the clearest, biggest blemish for sure, but there was a lot of offensive ineptitude.
David Moore had 5 targets and 0 receptions.
He had a rough game.
He should have had that catch. They should have reviewed it because he had his first left foot in.
I think so.
And then stepped out of bounds with that left foot.
I don't know. I mean, the still photo, it looks like that, but if you watch the video, it doesn't really look like he had possession with both feet in, does it?
I guess it kind of depends on whether you consider that possession. Once a hand and that foot's down, that's the first foot for possession, and the second foot, and it's the third step that goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I watched it in real time, the play as it happened, I thought it was a touchdown. Then the replay, your eye always wants to follow the ball, right? And then in that case, you want to. That's why I thought it was the first time. Then on the replay, you're worried about the feet. So you're watching the feet, and you think that first one. I mean, you think that foot's out, but you don't realize because of the angle, the foot was already down. So
yeah,
I don't know. The point is, even with that, he would have been 5 targets and 1 reception. Sure, it's a touchdown, but you want to be more efficient, right? So whether that was Russell or that was him or both, you don't want to have 20% efficiency thrown to anybody in our system.
Right. I thought there was a Thielen catch at the sideline towards the end of the game that could have been reviewed. It didn't look like he got both feet down, but I've never seen an actual replay. They never showed a replay, so I don't know for sure.
Was that on the last 3 drives? Was that on the drive where they turned it over? Was that the drive where
It was the drive they scored on.
It was the drive they scored on. I think they kind of like, everyone was like, let's just get out of here. They're down 3 scores. They're not going to do anything, even if they score.
It felt, didn't it? I mean, maybe I completely was just projecting and imagining it. I felt like in the last drive, like, everybody was just like, well, let's just let them have something. I know that's not how anybody thinks, but, like, I didn't feel like the reps were really, really calling stuff new. I didn't feel like the defense was really calling their best defense. Weird people were getting reps, and, like, I just felt like that people were just like, you're not going to win, so you know what? Maybe I've got you on my fantasy team, so go ahead and score. Like, have a score. Have a score if you don't feel so bad. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to have to put you on suicide watch. If we set you out, probably you'll all be out of jobs next year, so here, have a score. They're not that bad, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it just didn't feel like anybody was really.
Yeah.
I think it was obvious to everyone, the people on the field, the officials, the coaching staff, people watching it in the stadium and at home, that game was decided before that last drive. That last drive meant nothing to anybody. Any player, any agent who's going to try and use that is like, oh, well, look how good they looked on that drive. No, you didn't look that good. I mean, you look at Adam Thielen's number, 4 catches, 70 yards. He really didn't have anything until halfway through the third quarter, and half of his yards came on that final drive. So
pedestrian.
Yeah, so, I mean, kudos to Ken Norton. We'll talk about that a little bit. But, yeah, I don't think anyone is really, really looking at that last drive and saying, like, oh, man, we really should have pitched a shutout, because
I would have liked to, but it's not a big deal.
Right, especially at the way the game, like, if that was the drive they had and it would have been 14-7, then I think you would have been like, oh, man, that would have been that's too close. Like, you should play a little bit tougher. When you're down 21-0 with a minute and change left over, it's kind of like, look, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I was sure Cousins was across the line of scrimmage on that touchdown throw, but on the replay he was just behind the line enough.
Yeah,
and Russell's benefited from that too.
The rule was so different from I thought. It's counterintuitive to anything else in the NFL rules, right?
Yeah,
it's almost the opposite. Yeah.
It's like a soccer style rule instead of the football rule, where as soon as you cross the plane, you've gone too far. Like, I doubt they would ever say, like, oh, hey, like the lineman's down too far, but you know what? He kept his back pinky toe across the line, so he's not ineligible downfield.
Yeah, like you said, it was very much like a soccer type rule. Like in soccer, like it always bugs me when I'm watching it, because I'm used to watching football. Like the guy's standing off the field, but he kicks it, but it's fine because the ball's inbounds.
Right.
Like, dude, you're out of bounds. You are out of bounds. How is that okay?
Yeah.
But I guess it is, because all that matters is the ball. In that case, only in that type of play, all that matters was the ball was behind the line of scrimmage or any part of his body was. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Well, but
I just wanted to say real quick, this I don't want to go too far off subject, but just fantasy wise, going into that game, I was up by 34. I lose this game, I'm out of the playoffs. Going in up 34, and he has Thielen and Diggs going.
Oof.
So I needed our defense to be strong for me this week, and God damn it, they did it.
And neither of those guys got the touchdown.
Well, I had to play Cook, and like we shut him down, but Cook had the garbage time touchdown.
Right.
In the auction league that Sammy introduced me to. Because I lost in the other one because everybody sucked. It was a really weird week for fantasy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Super low scores everywhere.
Well,
except I had Cooper on that team, so that's why I was up by 34.
Awesome. Awesome. I played a guy who started I'm gonna forget who it was. Who started McCoy.
Oh, really?
He started McCoy, so he got 0.1 points for him, and he sat what's his name? Who went off?
Cooper.
Yeah. So yeah, no, not Cooper. The other running back for Tennessee.
Derrick Henry.
Henry.
Yeah, that guy sat Henry and started McCoy.
That's rough.
And I was out of the playoffs because of that.
Well, the Seahawks win their 4th game in a row to reach 8-5. Woo-hoo. And they're driving toward the playoffs with just one more win needed. Doesn't matter which game it comes across, one win puts them in. In their wake, they see the Packers fire their coach, the Vikings fire their offensive coordinator, and the Panthers have lost 5 in a row. The Seahawks return to Santa Clara where they can clinch a playoff spot in the face of Richard Sherman, who he called a mediocre, middle-of-the-road team. This is the Seahawks FanTable Podcast, brought to you by the Hawkscast Forum. And gentlemen, we're moving on, and we're talking about clinching a playoff spot in Week 15. Pretty exciting stuff.
Definitely did not think we would be in this position, man. Even eight weeks ago. So it's good to be here.
I mean, to be honest, to be completely fair, it shouldn't be that we're this close to clinching. It's almost been sort of spooky the last 2 or 3 weeks. Literally everybody we need to lose just keeps losing, right? The Panthers are falling apart, and then all of a sudden everybody else is starting to lose a couple of games here and there. Vikings are no longer what they were a few weeks ago. Like, everybody who we need to lose just start dropping off the map, right?
Well, catch me complaining about it.
It's awesome, but it's just a little spooky.
I mean, if you think about it,
we want these 4 teams to lose, and you figure 2 of them will, all 4 of them do.
Because if you go back 7 games ago, we were talking about a team that was fighting to get back to 500. At the time before this current stretch, they were below 500, and they had just beaten Oakland and they had just beaten Detroit. Detroit was, at the time, still considered a potential playoff team. They lose 2 in a row, go to 4-5, and now they've won 4 in a row against 3 teams that everyone thought was going to be a contender. The Packers, the Panthers, and the Vikings. And now, none of those teams have above 500 record. The Panthers are at 6-7. The Packers are at 5 wins with their tie, and the Vikings are at 6-1, which is crazy to think about. But the Seahawks at 8-5, they're in the driver's seat.
Driver's seat, baby. 8-5. We could end up 11-5, but not even win our division.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it right now. So this is topic number 1. So Ross, I'm going to hit you off with this one first. Can the Seahawks bring this team into the playoffs and expect to make some noise?
I think they really I don't think anybody wants to play us right now. December weather depends on who we're playing. The weather might. Well, I'd almost say it's not going to matter because I think we're going to have to play Dallas, and they play in a dome. And if we get past them, it's going to be places that play nice. But still, December's not playing in September. We're not do good weather. So the weather's not going to stop us. If it's snowing or rainy somehow, that favors our style of play. We've come together, but they play as a team. We don't have some of the stars we used to have, but they play as a team more than anybody better. So selfless. And the matchups look great. Oh, man, I almost want to fast forward to January, except that I want to get my Christmas presents. Yeah, I mean, again, you look at the individual rosters now, and it almost reminds me of 2011, 2012, where you think, well, how are they going to win? Because, who are our great stars here, there, and the other place? But, man, they've just solidified the units. The units, maybe not even individuals or whole teams, but individual units. The offensive line is playing well. And Simmons, man. Simmons, if you're Fluker, you're really mad at Simmons because he's probably costing him millions of dollars right now because don't even skip a beat anymore when you lost our quote-unquote best lineman, right? And the linebacker unit, and all of a sudden the cornerbacks, man, I just feel like we're peaking. We're getting close to peaking. We're going to peak at the right time. If we don't get to the second round of the playoffs, I'll be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised anywhere at the Super Bowl because playing, maybe the Rams and Saints in January, I think I'll take that. I'm not saying that's like a shoe-in or anything. I'm not getting cocky, but I'd say we have a pretty good chance. I don't think the Rams want to play us one more time. So I'm expecting some damage.
What about you, Zed? What kind of noise do you think this Seahawks team can make?
Well, after seeing the defensive performance from Monday night, I definitely have a lot more confidence going in. I mean, that defense was just lights out. It was by far the best defensive performance of the season, and I think in our new offense heavy NFL, I think Dallas is playing pretty good D, but I think the Seahawks are one of the only teams that can win it with the defense. So I think if the offense, assuming Monday night was kind of just a little bit of a stumble on the offensive side of things, and they're able to get things back to the way they have been for most of the season, I don't see any reason why we can't win ourselves a couple of playoff games. And I don't think anybody wants to play us right now either. So I feel real good about our chances if getting into the tournament, assuming we do, which should be a pretty much done deal after this weekend. So I expect to not only get into the playoffs but to make some noise there.
I think what you want to look at is points that both of you have already mentioned is the style of play that the Seahawks have offensively and defensively. They're not necessarily limited by having like perfect ideal conditions. They're not a speed offense where they work on timing and guys just getting great first steps on really clean grass, really clean turf under pristine conditions and beat you with speed that way. These are not like the Mike Holmgren teams that needed like that precision timing in order to make their offense work. This is a team that can win ugly. I mean, I don't know how you can characterize that game other than it was ugly. And it's kind of a throwback to what Ross was saying. This is like an older style of Pete Carroll offense where we're like, look, we're going to do things, but we're going to do just enough to win. And if we keep doing these things right, it's going to make it a lot harder for that other team. So you look at that defense, you look at the way they matched up, and I think that was a concern for everyone. How does Seattle contain Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, two of the best wide receiver tandems in the NFL, with a rookie corner who played safety in college and a second-year corner who everyone by most accounts would say has been played okay, hasn't played great. And they probably had the best games of their careers in that game. That one defense play that Shaq Griffin had where he perfectly timed the bat on Adam Thielen, I for sure thought he was too early and I thought we were going to hit a flag. Then you look at the replay and it was just like perfect timing, perfect positioning, and he just negated that play. And you look at that run defense, they really kept that offense in check all day long. And you look at what they're doing on the offensive side. The Seahawks ran the ball almost at will. I kind of wanted them to run a little bit more, but they ran 42 times in that game. They ran twice as many times as they threw it. And there was this one play where Chris Carson basically tackled himself but pushed the defender back like 5 yards. Like, do you guys remember that play? It was like he goes kind of right off the right between the guard and the tackle on the right side. There's a defender downfield, maybe like a yard or two off the line of scrimmage, and Chris Carson runs into him but pushes him back, and it was like, yeah, that guy got a tackle, but Chris Carson tackled that guy more than that guy tackled Chris Carson. And I kind of feel as if that's the offense, if that's the defensive style that they're going to play, they can make a ton of noise. Because you look at all the teams that they would face, none of the teams, except for maybe the Bears, are as balanced as the Seahawks potentially could be if this is what they can play for the rest of the season.
Exactly. And, Trey Flowers is quickly becoming one of my favorite new guys on the team. He's sort of the anti-Sherman. Doesn't seem to say much. Physically similar to Sherman in a lot of ways. The way he played on Monday, watching him break up that pass in the end zone was beautiful. Just the fact that we're able to trust a rookie to go up against any receiver in this league, and he's not going to win every time, but to be successful a lot of the time and be able to break up those kind of passes is, I feel like we're so lucky to have that. So just props to Trey Flowers for really becoming a very good starting cornerback in this league.
If you had to... Oh, go ahead, Ross.
I was just going to say, Trey Flowers' first name, his real first name, do you know it?
Trevor?
I don't.
Trevor?
It's Shaquille.
One more
time?
time?
If it's Shaquille and Shaquille, how is that not a thing? Seriously. Like, how would that... I understand why he could have done it Trey early, but now he's got a teammate named Shaquille. So why is he going by Shaquille? And then we like the we can call it like the Tequila Twins or something like
the Chilequiles.
Right? Like that's got to be a thing. Somebody's got to talk to that guy.
All right, real quick, last question before we move on. Kind of sub question to this: if the Seahawks go far in the playoffs, however we want to determine that, what is going to be the biggest factor? Is it going to be their pass defense, their run defense, their pass offense, or their rush offense? What of those four would you characterize as the biggest key to their success?
For me, it's going to be two things. It's going to be the pass rush. It's going to be because once you get this year, it's flipped over like last year. It's a lot of the heavy pass teams look like they're set up to be high seeds. So it's going to be, can we get some pass rush to make Goff or Breeze uncomfortable to give us a shot? And it's also just going to be, kind of obvious maybe. It's almost like saying who's going to win who's going to win. It's going to be the coaching matchup. Does Pete Carroll put together the right game plan with enough wrinkles and enough taking away the other person's strong points to win that game? I think it's really going to come down to coaching in the playoffs.
Zeb, what about you?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time narrowing it down. I think our run game is very important. I think just being able to have those long sustained drives and get points off of your running game just does so much to help out the rest of the team. I think that may be kind of the most important thing. Obviously, getting stops on defense is equally as important, but I think with the way Bobby Wagner's playing, he might be the key to the defense being able to perform as well as it can for the rest of the season.
I think the biggest thing that the Seahawks need to do in order to go far into the playoffs, I think it is kind of like what Zeb's saying, is that run offense. If they can keep that running game intact, and they did that really well against what was supposed to be like a top 5 rush defense, and Seattle was able to churn out over 200 yards on the ground. If they can keep that up, if they can continue to kind of impose their will, that's really going to be difficult for a lot of teams. And that's not the way a lot of teams are designed, so maybe that's for our benefit, but we'll see. But speaking of that, let's move on to topic number 2. So Zeb, this is going to be for you first. Topic number 2. Has our D turned the corner, or was the performance versus the Vikings just a scheme?
I like to think that the upward trend of the defense will continue, but I do also obviously believe that the Seahawks just schemed well. I also think the Vikings schemed poorly on offense. I think they came in way too conservative for whatever reason. I do think that the Vikings playing and scheming poorly on offense helped us look a lot better. But the fact of the matter is that at every opportunity, the defense took advantage of their shortcomings. We punched them in the mouth regularly throughout that game. I would love to see that continue for the rest of the season. I don't know. I don't know if it is the case necessarily, because we got shredded, throughout this season by a lot of different guys. I don't imagine we'll be able to play as tightly in every game as we were able to on Monday night against the Vikings. But I would love that. That would be great if we were able to count on this defense to hold teams to, 10, 13 points. I have no doubt we can take this all the way to the end.
Ross, what about you? How do you look at where the defense has been previously, and then how they showed themselves on Monday night?
I mean, it's very difficult. I agree with Zeb that I want to believe that this is an upward trend and it's things like that. I kind of think, even though it's a yes or no question, I feel like my answer is just, it's like A or B, but I feel like my answer is just yes. I think a lot of it was scheme, but at the same time, I don't see why that scheme, why they wouldn't be able to continue to scheme them that well. For example, they used cover 2, which they don't normally do a lot of in this game. They did a lot, and then they, all of a sudden, they were bracketing They don't usually do that at all. Usually our cornerbacks are out there and they're on a limited island if it's within a certain type of route. But all of a sudden, like Thielen and Diggs were both being bracketed over and over and over again. It's kind of weird coverage. But it was really, really effective, and it wasn't, so I guess I'm saying at this point it was mostly scheme, but I like to think that the players played up to that scheme, and I'd like to think going forward that Norton and Carroll can both continue to have that sort of meta outlook on the opponents and figure out how to best deal with the threats. And you don't want to give away all your tricks every game, so you can't. The 49ers, I think, will just play really, really simply like we did last time. We're not exposing any goals. But I think mostly with scheme, but I don't think that really takes away from the defense. I think that's kind of especially how Pete Carroll frames it, that's his job. Put your players in a position to succeed. If you're playing some of the two best wide receivers in the game this season, Thielen and Diggs, then give them a little bit of help and don't be ashamed of that and just take them away, because a win is a win is a win. It doesn't mean like you take anything away from the performance of those guys, because they still have to execute it, right? But again, just put them in a position to succeed, and hopefully we're able to keep doing that going forward. I was really impressed.
So before I give you guys my kind of thoughts on this, I'll just ask both of you a quick question. Is there anything that you saw the Seahawks do on Monday night that they can't replicate?
It's not that they can't replicate, just same thing, you don't need it. I mean, they went into bandit defense, which I don't think we've seen much of since that, like, Pete Carroll's first season. Remember, we all talked about the bandit.
Yes, because they had like a hodgepodge of roster. They couldn't get 3 down linemen to play because they didn't have any.
So, like, they were using 7 defensive backs again, and now it turns out maybe that was because of a broken leg at linebacker. But I mean, you wouldn't want to use bandit against everybody. You don't want to use bandit against the San Francisco 49ers because they can run the ball really, really effective, right?
Right. And
they're going to run screen plays to Brady if he's playing, or to Wilson if he's not. So you don't want to run it every week, but I'm hoping that the mind is the same. The mind that said, against the Vikings, we're going to be flexible enough, even though it's not part of our normal game plan, to go to cover 2. We're going to bracket these receivers, and we're going to do it out of bandit. Is the same. I mean, the same people who think that next week, because if nothing else, Pete Carroll's very flexible. We play 20% of our snaps with 6 offensive linemen, right?
Right.
On offense. So you think that against the 49ers, then we bring in an extra lineman. We play 5 down linemen if we need to, or maybe an extra linebacker to cover the screens. I don't know. The point is, I don't think you can do the same thing, but I think you can have the same mentality going into it. And I think, like Zeb said, I think that's responsible for like the uptick in the performance of the defense last couple of weeks.
Zeb, do you think that this is a game that they could replicate? This style of defense, that scheme, that performance?
I mean, I suppose for the most part they could. Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Ross says is true about not running this exact scheme against every team. It doesn't really make sense to do that. But I think that more than anything, I believe that the confidence level of the defense has risen to a point where they believe that they can stop anybody. And I think that may be just as important as the scheme.
That's a great point.
And the plan going in. So yeah, I really like the attitude of the defense right now. They kind of it's that kind of that 2012, 2013 Legion of Boom, we could beat the Greek gods kind of feeling they seem to have. So
yeah.
That's to me is the most exciting thing at this point.
So I'm willing to go a little bit further than I think maybe most people, or maybe the way that you guys are. I think the defense has turned a corner in the fact that what they're doing is not anything out of this world. It's not anything that we would not expect. It's not a bunch of undrafted free agents doing things that like, oh wow, look at what these guys can do. But what's happened is the coaching has put themselves in the best position to win. And whether that's bracketing the 2 best wide receivers that they're going to face this year, and then saying like, look, we're gonna rush 4. We're gonna put a couple of the guys on the island, and we're gonna see, can you beat them? Do you, Kirk Cousins, trust anyone that's not named Thielen, Diggs, or Kyle Rudolph? And if you don't trust them, then that's going to be a bonus for us. And there were so many times in that game that the defense made Kirk Cousins just look confused. He looked unaware. He was panicking. He was flushed out of the pocket. You know, one of the biggest weaknesses of that Seahawks defense was their play against screenplays. And while the Vikings were able to get a couple screenplays off, the Seahawks were never killed by any of them. You didn't see like a 40-yard completion because we lost containment on a screen. It was always, we're going to give you this reception, but we're going to stop you. And, you know, the defense played sound, the linebackers played well, the corners and DBs were always in position, and there was very little missed tackles. I think there was like a couple missed tackles on that scoring play, but for the most part, the defense did exactly what you would want them to do. And I kind of feel like this is that opportunity where they can turn that corner, where they can be that new team. And hopefully that's what we'll see, you know, for the final few weeks and into the playoffs.
Amen, brother.
Final thoughts about that defense? Real quick, we got to talk about it, otherwise it'll be a shame. Bobby Wagner's jump over the line, however you want to categorize it, not the first time he's done it, probably won't be the last either, but regardless of the legality of that play, is there a cooler play that you can think of on special teams and defense in how he blocked that play, blocked that kick?
No, I love it.
I mean, like the pure athleticism, like he like just standing there, just jumped over that dude. Like no running jump, no swinging back and forth from, like just clean jumped over that dude. Like how?
When I watched it live, I jumped out of my chair. I scared the people sitting around me and like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, did you not see that? Did you not see what had just happened? That was my reaction, and I don't care about the legality because they let it go. I don't think it was the be all end all because I don't think he really got a lot of leverage. I don't think just putting your hands on someone gives you leverage automatically. Just because you put a hands on a defender or an offensive player, it's not pass interference. You know, you have to change their route. You have to change their body. I don't think that's what happened with Bobby. But one of the most impressive physical feats I think we'll have seen all year.
Yep.
More impressive than the Chris Carson flip and lands on his feet?
I don't know
it's
about
more impressive just because it's not luck, right? Like
one's
Chris
intentional,
Carson
one's
didn't,
not,
like,
right?
Sorry?
One's intentional, one's not.
Right. I mean, like Chris Carson didn't go like, oh, superhero landing here, watch this flip. He didn't do that. He just like that's just.
It is a pretty cool flip, though.
I mean, but like Bobby like practiced that all week, right? They saw something on tape and thought they could do it, and then they went and did it. And then he just happened to use his hands to know to like argue about it, but. He didn't push off. By the reading the letter of the law, it looks like it is technically a penalty because it's poorly written. But I mean, like, dude, he just jumped over that dude. I'm still in awe.
He jumped over basically like 5 people because it's 2 offensive linemen and 2 defensive linemen that he's kind of jumping through from a standing position.
Right.
Beyond
crazy.
crazy.
I had a small cat and like. Who died exactly 1 year ago today, or this week rather.
R.I.P. Blitz.
R.I.P. But I don't think I would have confidence to jump over him. That dude jumped over like a grown man, like not just a football player.
Multiple grown men.
Anyway, pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing is
quite
good categorization of it. All right, well, let's move on to top number 3. So this is the Hawkscast Corner. So this one's not so much of a question, it's more of an idea. And Ross, he has been messaging to Zeb and I throughout this football season. He's talking about fun. He's talking about how fun this game, this team is to watch. So on Hawkscast.com, on the forum, if you go, there's a topic and it says 2018 is a fun Seahawks year, thanks in part to @Cable Thanos. So if you are not on Seahawks Twitter, go just for this. If not, just go to this topic, go to this page and read it. So I'm just going to read you a little bit. For those of you that abstain from the craziness that is Seahawks Twitter, please reconsider for a second if you were to watch these 2+ minute videos made by Seahawks fan at CableThanos_. It's not the real name. They used to go by a different one. The name is a combination of Tom Cable and Thanos, the Mad Titan. Put them together and you get Cable Thanos. And it was a throwback to the fact that offensive line pre-Mike Solari was pretty awful. But in there, he's got these crazy videos. And just to cap it off, so we can move along, his last video got so much attention in that he highlighted the amazing catch by 6th offensive lineman George Fant, when he called it, "Please rise for the national fanthem." Russell Wilson retweeted that, and Russell Wilson actually asked Cable Thanos to create a Pro Bowl hype video for the Seahawks. So he's going to do it. But Ross, you text us, you message us all the time. What is so fun about this 2018 Seahawks team?
If I want to put a negative, I mean, I loved all of our players for the past few years. All of them, to this day. I mean, Richard Sherman, we've talked about Richard, but he's still one of my all-time favorite players. I want the statue up, but I guess I hadn't noticed how tiresome all of the noise had gotten. And now the noise is gone. It's only positivity. And it's just defending how great a team is. It's watching younger players grow into themselves, grow into a team. It's all new. It's all new. It feels all new. It feels great. And it's not the political stuff. I don't mind in fact, I'm a person that believes not just that NFL players have a right to have a voice. I think it's their duty. But at the same time, it wasn't just, Doug Baldwin is still political, but it's not this constant background noise. And he keeps it focused and he keeps it constructive. And I guess some of it is that. Some of his response to, last year, our record around this time was probably something similar. But it didn't feel happy, and it didn't feel fun, and it was just sort of like the grind. And I guess part of it also is once you're at the Super Bowl with that crew and you're kind of on your way down, that grind of trying to stay on top isn't nearly as fun as the grind of trying to get to the top. And that's a big part of it as well. So there's just all sorts of different factors into it. And the personality of the team, there's so much uplifting. Anything from having twins on the team and one of them's playing with only one hand, and oh my God, Trey Flowers, he was a safety just a year ago, but now he's playing NFL cornerback, and oh my God, was Frank Clark ever going to come into his own and he's going to have the right attitude? But his attitude is adjusted and he's upped his game, and there's just so much going on, and there's just so much to love, and there's none of the stuff. You don't have to, if I'm talking to non-CX fans, I don't have to apologize. Except for maybe, Bobby Wagner touched the dude. Okay, I'm sorry. He still jumped over that dude. I don't feel compelled to apologize. I don't feel compelled I have to defend. There's nothing to defend. They're just better than you thought they were going to be. There's nothing to defend. Whereas I have to constantly say, he blew up with the offensive coach even though he's a defensive player. No, but he's still a really good cornerback. But the negativity had started to drown out the positive. And it's not like that anymore. It's just fun. It's just great. Every week is something new and amazing. Bobby Wagner being the focus of the defense instead of the mouths being the focus. And I'm not saying Sherman only. I'm just saying those. I'm not saying mouth as a word for the people. I'm just saying all the vocabulary, all the stuff being said all the time last year. That seemed to sometimes eventually, and it looks like the team agreed too because they made the changes, that seemed to eventually outweigh the product on the field. Now I can focus on the product on the field. I'm loving it.
Zeb, have you watched any of these Cable Thanos videos?
Not really. I saw a little bit of one, but I didn't have the sound on, so I don't think I got the full impact of it.
definitely listen with it with sound when you get a chance, if you get a chance, because what they are is they're just fun. They're like taking all the things that we as Seahawk fans hear that like are negative or naysaying or saying like, oh, maybe it's not this year. It's, you know, the rah doesn't work anymore. Like Pete Carroll, you know, he can only last so long before players tune him out. But they're fun. But what do you think it is about this 2018 year that seems so much more fun than last year? And, you know, we potentially are going to have the same record, but here we were through the same number of weeks where we were both 8-5, but we're looking at the team going in very different directions. What makes this year so fun?
Yeah, well, I think that in itself is a big part of it. That we're confident. We feel like the team is getting better throughout the year. So whereas last year just kind of felt like things were never getting better. Things were always kind of slowly seemed to be falling apart. I think the main thing for me is that the players look like they're having fun. Watching them, the way they've been doing the celebrations this year, which I think you kind of have to say the Seahawks have been one of the better celebration teams.
There should be a Grammy award.
They need to win an SP.
Yeah, it's fun to watch that combined with the confidence that we can win these games and we are winning them. And going into the season with lower expectations, only to have those expectations usurped because Pete Carroll is coaching out of his mind this season. Everything kind of just feels fresh and new and young again, obviously in part because of some of the turnover from the last couple of seasons. So I always have fun watching the Seahawks. I don't love losing by any means, and it's not fun when that happens. But until that clock hits 000, I believe we can win. That's just kind of how I always have been. So it's always fun for me. But there's no doubt that this season has been much more fun than probably the last two were. And I enjoy watching the players have a good time. I think that's the most important thing to me. If the guys are smiling and laughing and dancing and scoring touchdowns, I'm a happy man.
I think both of you guys have done a really good job of characterizing what it is about this year that's so different. A lot of it is the fact that the players seem to be enjoying themselves to the point where there are no off-field distractions that players have to kind of explain. Because that's one of the big things. You as a player might be able to stay in your lane, stay focused, but if another of your teammates is a distraction in any way, you have to answer for it even though it has nothing to do with you. There's no distraction this year. There's no off-field drama. There's no sideline drama. There's no one that's making themselves bigger than the team. So all you can really talk about is, what are you doing this week? How good has this player been for you guys this year? What do you think about your opponent? What's different? And everything points back to, we got to focus on football. And that's kind of what has been really fun. The other thing is, to Zeb's point, is that they're winning in so many different ways. There's not one game that says like, oh yeah, that's the formula that they're going to take for the rest of the year. They've won in a multitude of different ways. Last second field goals, last second drives, defensive stops, controlling the ball, milking 6 minutes off a clock so another team doesn't get the ball back to try and win it. And they've lost in crazy ways too. And that's what has made this team fun to watch, is like the unexpected is so much fun, and because they're coming out winning with it, it's just that much better. And I think that's really, again, what is so fun about this year. Those videos that Cable Thanos puts out, they're fun, they're off the wall, they poke fun at the media, they poke fun at the critics, they poke fun at Seahawks Twitter, who says you can only win if you do this, you can't win by running the ball, you can't win by drafting a running back in the first round, you can't do all these things, and yet here we are at 8-5 with the Seahawks driving towards playoff position, and even though it's never happened in the history of the NFL, two wildcard teams have never met in an NFC Championship or AFC Championship game, but I'm going to hold out hope. Hold out hope that if that ever happens, it will be the Seahawks as one of the teams that get to host an NFC Championship game as the 5 seed. How sweet would that be?
If things had worked a little, Dallas, who was the other wild card team, I'd actually say this year would be a good chance, because I think right now, like, the two teams to beat in the NFC actually are probably Dallas and Seattle.
I'd say Chicago's up there, and I think the Saints are good.
I think they're good. I think all of the playoff teams this year actually are good. Some years you think like, well, we have to have 2 extra players in there, 2 extra teams in there. But
right.
I think all the NFC teams that are going to get to the playoffs look good right now. But I just think like the Dallas and Seattle are on a huge upswing, and the Saints and the Rams are sort of slowly either peaking too early, getting slightly exposed, getting a little run down. Some of the rookies are hitting like the rookie wall. So I don't know. If I was them, I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah, we'll see. Final thoughts on the fun year that is this season so far.
I hope it continues to be fun for about another month, at least another month and a half, maybe longer.
I mean, honestly, if the way that all the other teams behind Seattle have fared, for Seattle to finish this year at 9-7, they'll make the playoffs still at 9-7. I don't know how you can't be excited for what they're doing. Yeah, obviously if they get blown out in 2 of their last 3 games, it's going to put a damper on the season. But where I think a lot of us expected them to be and where they have a chance to go, I think we're all expecting them to be competitive in that playoff, in that wild card game. And I think that's the best you can hope for with a team that's not winning their division, right?
Yeah.
I really hope we get 10-6. I don't like going to the playoffs at 9-7. It feels like a bit of a fluke or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to feel like you backed in or are going in on a bad streak.
Like, oh, they're just teams this year. 10-6 sounds like a different world than so.
Yeah, for sure. 11-5 sounds even better.
Yeah, it does. Chiefs are going down.
All right, well, let's move on to topic number 4, which is the San Francisco 49ers. And Zeb, is there anything more dominant than the Seahawks playing in Santa Clara?
Are we undefeated down there?
Since Levi Stadium opened, Seattle has not lost in Santa Clara, and the Seahawks have held the San Francisco 49ers to an average about 11 points, I think sub 11 points in those last 4 games.
Yikes. Yeah, well, they've been pretty bad. So I think we've got them. It's fun. So we've won 10 games in a row now against the Niners.
Yes.
10 games back, we were 15-15 against them all time. So we were right there at like even. It'd been even throughout the years at 500, and now we're 25-15 against them, which, talking about a legacy team like the Niners, that feels pretty good, right? Like that feels like we've dominated them. We're the better franchise at this point. I always get a little nervous about, especially these kind of, you don't want it to end up being what they call a trap game or something like that. Guys are too confident, or we're looking past them towards our next opponent or towards the playoffs. But yeah, I think dominant is the right word. We should be able to go down to the Bay this weekend and put a good whooping on them, assuming everybody's on the same page and none of that weird stuff happens like I was just talking about. I missed the rivalry a little bit. In theory, I guess I think I talked about this last week just a little bit, how that it's fun to blow people out or to be sure of a victory ahead of time, but there's kind of no better feeling than victory, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat against a bitter rival. So I missed that a little bit, but I don't miss it so much right now this week. So let's go down there and curb stomp them.
Ross, what about you?
10 in a row?
Yes, because we're including the NFC Championship game. So January 19th, 2014, the Seahawks have not lost to the 49ers. The last loss Yeah, so
Yeah, basically.
The last loss was December 8th when we lost 19-17 in Candlestick Park. And that was the Super Bowl year. And that was when San Francisco was good. Obviously, we faced them again in the NFC Championship game.
Like at that point, it doesn't even really talk to or speak to your players. It speaks to your program, doesn't it? Because average career is 3 or 4 years, and look at the, how many people on the roster even from the NFC Championship game when we beat them, right? Like 3, 2?
I don't think there are any. I don't think.
Yeah, it's a whole
from
different
San
group of guys
Francisco,
playing a whole different group of guys.
Yeah, from San Francisco,
so,
it's
again,
completely turned over. From Seattle, it's Doug, Bobby, KJ, Earl, because he's technically on the roster, and Cam, who's technically on the roster, and Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're not talking about your institution. Your team is an institution. Your institution is that much weaker. That you're hiring the wrong coaches. You're drafting the wrong players. You're signing the wrong free agents. You're building the wrong kind of stadium in the wrong town. I mean, you're just doing everything wrong. But if you can't win a game against another team in 5 years, and you get 2 chances at every year, once you get 3 chances, it's just really bad. That's sad. Like you said, it's a legacy team that once upon a time, I used to hate them because they were too good. Like I studied in the Bay Area in the early 90s, and like it was an annoying time to be a Seahawks fan in that area because it was all about Joe Montana and then Steve Young and that whole thing, and you were so mad because they went from a Hall of Fame quarterback to another Hall of Fame quarterback, and Jerry Rice and all these other Hall of Fame players, and they were just too awesome. And now, like, it's not even really fun. Like, I don't really like it. So just like going like, I mean, I like it because I want the wins. But when in August you're already looking at the calendar, going, okay, well, there's 2 wins. Kind of, right. It's a little objectively, not as a Seahawks fan, it's a little sad. And that city deserves better, and that area deserves better. But if that owner can't make it happen and doesn't understand themselves, like, you just get caught in a circle. You're a bad owner, so maybe you're not really good at making football decisions. Not even good enough to understand football to make the decision how to find a person who can make your football decisions. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know how to find a general manager. You hire a TV guy.
Yeah, but he's a really smart TV guy. He went to Stanford.
He is. He's a smart. I mean, like, his first season there, his first couple of decisions, I was like, oh my God, turning it around, oh my God. And what if it's for real? But, like, he's still a TV guy, isn't he? And, like, a lot of those other teams aren't really coming, it's, everybody's like, oh, they lost Garoppolo. But, dude, the jury's still out on Garoppolo. He's only played 8 games or something. So, I don't know. It's we dominate them, but it's not even feeling similar to. If it was like they were really, really toughly competing and we were winning by 2 points every game and just squeaking it out, and it's always but we still happen to come out ahead, that'd be one thing. But the way like the last game 2 weeks ago, we played them. The crowd wasn't into it because it's a game, right?
Yeah.
No. I feel sorry for them a little bit, but I still hope we beat them by like 45.
I understand why you guys say that, because there's not a rivalry. A rivalry requires that both teams have to actually be able to beat each other. And if it's this one-sided, it's not that much of a rivalry. It's not even that much of a game to be played. But I will say it speaks to Pete Carroll. What this shows, as you were alluding to earlier, is that this is a program that is designed to sustain success. It is to win forever. And what Pete and John and Russ and Bobby and all these other mainstays on the Seahawks, what they've been able to do is they've been able to find ways to win, and they've been able to find ways to be competitive. And if that means that these are 2 quote-unquote free wins for the year, sign me up. I am all for it, because wins come at a premium. There's nothing worse than seeing a franchise fall into nothingness, into non-relevancy like the 49ers have been. I mean, look at how excited people are for the Browns to win their game. They've won 5 games this year, and that's been a huge increase over what they've done over the past. But that means that people have something to talk about. If you're a 49ers fan, congratulations, you beat the Broncos last week. But other than that, no one's talking about you. You've got Nick Mullens still out there. You've got a coach that is upset with Russ because he threw a shoe. You've got a GM who's a former TV guy. What is there to get excited about for you right now? So for this year, the 49ers, they're a wash. That is a win the Seahawks fans and the Seahawks should be expecting. And what I want them to do, I just want them to dominate. Just run, give them no opportunity. Run at Sherman, do whatever you can, and run up the score. Because I think it'll be great, and I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I'll take the easy win.
I'll tell you what, the Niners have us, and then I don't remember the order, but they got the Bears and the Rams coming up. That's their last 3 games. That's a proud franchise, and there's a lot of good young players on that team. They haven't had very good luck. But don't tell me for one second those guys would not love to run the table, play a little spoiler. They're not going to make they're nowhere close to the playoffs, and they haven't been for most of this season. But don't tell me that they're not going to give the Seahawks everything they have. So I would not take for granted the fact that we're going to have to go down there and play some football to beat those guys.
For sure.
I mean, they'd like to, but at this point, I don't know if they have the to.
Right, for sure. But they're going to give it everything they got, man. I'm not counting them out.
Like I said, I never really felt like a real game. But, I mean, they had players individually who made some plays. I mean, Pettis had a great game, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they've got a couple, they can come up with a couple highlight plays. I just don't know if they have the to. And I mean, maybe I'm being too hard. I mean, maybe part of it is they are on their 3rd string quarterback, and they're on their 3rd string wide receiver playing as wide receiver 1. And depending on whether Brader plays or not, they're either starting their 2nd or 3rd best running back. Yeah,
it's a tough go.
It is.
Sad. Tears are flowing for those guys. Go Seahawks.
You know what happens? You move out a candlestick and you're strong.
Exactly. You guys got cursed. That's what happened to them.
Cursed.
And those are our topics. So we're going to jump into some predictions. So Ross, I'm going to hit you up first. Final score: Seattle at San Francisco.
38-17.
Generous. They scored more than the Vikings. Well done, San Francisco.
Well, it's in their stadium. They've containing Kittle, don't we?
Zeb, what's your final score?
34-24.
Ooh.
I want to live in the 30 burger with you guys. I'm going to go 35-10. Ross, who is going to have more yards, Russell throwing or the running backs rushing?
Russell throwing.
All right. Zeb?
Not by design. I think there's going to be a couple breakdown and coverage, a couple long passes to pad his numbers. It's going to be very run heavy.
So the running backs rushing, not including Russell rushing.
We're just saying
running backs.
We'll give Russell because they count as rushing yards. Who's going to have more rushing? Seahawks as a team rushing or Russell Wilson throwing?
The rushing.
I'm with you. I think if there's a game that you want to establish a run game, give guys like Mike Davis and Penny reps. This is a game to do it. Maybe we even see J.D. McKissick actually make a worthwhile appearance. What are we going to see more attempts from, though? Nick Mullen passing attempts or Seahawk rushing attempts? And this includes Russell Wilson as well. Ross, what do you think?
Let's have him do the math.
Carry the one.
I guess more rushing attempts by Seattle, but it's close.
All right.
It's going to be close to 45 on both, right? We'll rush it around 45. He'll throw it around 45. A couple more rushes.
Yeah, it is going to be close. I'll say Mullens passing.
Yeah, I think this game kind of tends to side more towards Nick Mullens playing from behind, so they're not really going to have a bunch of opportunities to really do much other than just chuck it up. But yeah, I see Nick Mullens is going to have to chuck it up a bunch more. Let's see here. All right, next prediction. Yes or no? Are the Seahawks going to allow points in the first quarter? That defense, are they going to give up any points in the first quarter, Ross?
No.
Nope.
No
No
points
points
for you.
No points for you.
No points for you. Zeb, and from you, I hear that's a no.
You are correct, sir.
Okay. I think that if I predict that they're going to get 10 points, it's going to be in garbage time. And just a side note, Nick Mullens threw it 48 times when the Seahawks last faced him. So. All right. Yes or no? Nick Mullens finishes the game for San Francisco.
You really like this. You're always waiting for us to hurt somebody. You're mean.
No, I think that he's gonna like just quit in shame. He's like, you know what? I can't do it.
Do they have another backup quarterback? Who's the other quarterback?
I think it's John Lynch. I think John Lynch is their backup quarterback.
Jeff
just comes in.
Jeff George.
Kyle Shanahan's just like, you know what? I'll do it myself.
Jeff George had a cup of coffee with Seattle. I think he finished. Well, God, what if Bobby Wagner just decapitates him in the second quarter?
That'd be blood on the field.
He had a sack against San Francisco, so
he seems like a tough guy. I think he's going to finish the game.
Remember, Bobby Wagner hit every single defensive stat line in that game against San Francisco.
Yeah, Bobby's taking over the league. Bobby's just on it.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah, for real. Zeb,
if he was
Nick Mullens going to finish that game?
Yeah, he's got a lot of pride.
Nah, he's not going to. He's gonna hang his head in shame. He's gonna call Cam Newton. Say, dude, I need that Gatorade towel. I'm gonna go sulk over in the corner.
Rip his cleats off.
Pull me out, coach. Yes or no, Ross? Richard Sherman gets a target in the first half covering Seahawks wide receiver.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll go as well.
They steered against him most of the last game, but I see it a little different this time.
I'm going to say no because I think the Seahawks don't really care. They're just going to run their offense, and it means that, look, we're going to take the easy matchup, which is going to be everywhere where Richard Sherman is not, and it doesn't matter to us. We don't need to prove anything. So,
to be honest, I was a little surprised last time they didn't game plan towards attacking him with Doug or Keenan Reynolds or some smaller dude, even.
Well, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a play where it's a common thing that Richard Sherman does where he plays basically the last quarter of the end zone, and what he does is he doesn't play off the wide receiver, so it looks like if you throw it fast enough or you think you could sneak the ball in, it's kind of like there's a man under and he's playing up top, that he won't be able to intercept the ball or defend it. But what happens is old Richard Sherman's so good at breaking on a ball like that, especially a deeper ball because of his length. Russell Wilson saw that and he kind of looked him off and then went inside. Ended up being a touchdown anyway, but that's something that I noticed on the game. So I kind of feel like Russ knows Sherman well enough and is like, look, I'm not going to get any points by, beating you. So let me just take this easy throw over here where I'm still going to get a bunch of yards.
Well, I just feel like if you run a 10-yard digs at Richard Sherman, there's not much he can normally do about it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Super Bowls we won. I mean, some top quarterbacks kind of did that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, but I also remember there are games where Richard Sherman has said, "All right, fine, you're not going to test me deep. You're just going to beat me on these digs."
Well, I wouldn't for the life of me throw anything deep on him. No way. We're not throwing fades to the right.
Yeah. All right, over under, Ross. Seahawks rushing yards 170.5. They're averaging about 158 right now.
Under. Don't outraged. Yeah, under.
Wow. Shock.
I figured 44 runs, 4 yards a carry, not more than that. So, because we're going to be running because we're going to be up ahead. We don't have to get creative, just going to running clock. yeah, just a bunch of like straight runs. So like I figure like 4 yards a carry, 44 runs. That's 176. So, yeah, I'm still gonna go just a tad under.
Well,
Because
I'm offended, and I blame the patriarchy. I say over.
I think it's going to be well over. Seahawks are they're gonna try and get every one of their running backs a touchdown this week. This one's going to be a tricky one. So this will kind of play into our topic number 2 as the D turn the corner. Ross, over under Seahawks defense pass. Do they give up 375 yards? Over or under?
Last time we gave up like what 420?
Yes.
For twomp.
Yeah, under. I think they got it under control this time a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going under as well.
In order to keep a team under that 10 points and under, you gotta limit that passing game, so they're gonna go under. And the final prediction, Ross, over under forced turnovers for the Seahawks 2.5.
Under. That's not really our strong point right now, is it? I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, I'll go under as well.
Just
barely.
Bobby Wagner and Frank Clark are man-possessed. They forced 3 turnovers in the last time they faced San Francisco. I'm going to go over. I'm going to say the turnover parade continues, and we are going to win big.
Hey, I have a quick prediction for you guys.
Shoot.
That I think should be included. You ready?
Yes.
Ross, you first. Does George Fant get a catch?
Whew.
I think he gets a target, but not a catch.
Sammy?
I think they don't want to unleash that secret weapon again, so they're gonna table it for another time. But I'll just give you a little insight. I was watching the game with my kids, and when George Fant caught that ball, I jumped out of my chair. Again, everyone was looking at me, and I said, "Fat guy catch! Fat guy catch!" And both my kids were like, "Daddy, that's rude." I'm like, "I'm sorry. I should have said big guy catch, but that was a fat guy catch," and I was very excited.
Yeah, you know what? I think we're going to see it again, but not this week. I think they'll save it for the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. And gentlemen, that's our podcast. Shoutouts.
Shout out to Peaches and Regalia.
Sure.
That's all I got.
Ross, any shoutouts today?
I'm gonna shout out Santa Claus because that's coming up, and I don't recall in my stockings. Hoping for the best.
I'm gonna give a shout out.
Good boy, Santa.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe Santa's gonna listen to us. Shout out to the Twitch chat, Sophia Reed, who is probably a KC fan. Hopefully, you'll be back in a couple weeks when we face the Kansas City Chiefs. Shout out to Zeb and Ross for joining us as always. Check us out on Seahawks FanTable on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Seahawks Podcast and Seahawks Forum. Go to hawkscast.com. Talk to us. Talk about the Seahawks. Talk about all things, politics, games like Smash Brothers Ultimate just came out. Love to chat with you. Love to talk to you. Love to podcast with you. Go Hawks.
Let's go!